Greetings and welcome to the Thirsty Mage, the podcast looking to find out if a virtual beer tastes just as good as a real one. I'm your host David Lloyd, and ever since the 90s we've been hearing about how the future of video games is virtual reality. That promise has yet to come to fruition, but with the recent release of PSVR2, we're here to talk about whether we're any closer to that Star Trek holodeck experience, or if we're just doomed to a sea of motion sickness-inducing shovelware. Joining me virtually from the metaverse, where his me has gotten a new lease on life, it's Casey Gibson.
Howdy ho! It's actually funny. There is no me or anything. I'm surprised they don't have something like that kick you off in the VR world with a little avatar. But I guess you just get a sweet pair of hands.
Yeah. Well, I guess maybe Facebook, one of the many billions of dollars that they've dropped. Maybe that's where they outbid Sony for the me.
Yeah,
because I see these metaverse. I don't even know if you like they're not even really commercials. It's more like the pressers or whatever, where they're like, "Look at what we can do," and it's like that's like 8 me's sitting around a real coffee table. Like this was 2008 technology, there, buddy.
yeah. I don't like Facebook, so I've got no interest in anything they really got going on. Yeah. So yeah, my first foray into the world of VR. So yeah, I know some people like Alex and I believe Perry too had like the Quest 2 and stuff. So we've heard a little bit of it. I've always wanted to play it, and like I've been to a couple PAXs. Well, I guess at this point it's been a couple years because obviously pandemic and stuff. But like I guess I went to like 2016, 17, 18, 19, I think went like 4 years in a row to different PAXs. And like they'd always have some booths with the VR, but you'd have to get there first thing in the morning and sign up and be lucky enough to get a time slot. And I never was.
Yeah.
However, I did at one PAX play a little weird horror, like Google Cardboard VR game. You know what I mean? So not real VR, but yeah. So this was finally got to dive into it. Now, you've never played any VR, have you?
I've done VR once, so it was pre-pandemic as well. I think it was 2019, and I think it was like mid to end in 2019. A buddy of mine at my work came strolling in with I think it was a Quest as well, or I don't know. I'm pretty sure it was the Facebook one, but it wasn't.
Yeah, because it was just the headset. Like, you didn't need anything else.
No, he had to bring in he brought in his full tower and everything. Like he needed
dang, okay.
Yeah, he needed a pretty high tech. Like I feel like at the time Facebook had like the Quest was like the more affordable version, and then there was like a high end one, and he had bought the high end one. It was like 1,400 or something at the time, and I was like, man, you're crazy, because didn't feel like there was much out at the time, and so what we ended up doing was there was a guy who wasn't in that day, so we emptied his office out into the hallway, and then hooked up the his computer inside this office and played VR for most of the day. And yeah, there was a few. Like I said, there wasn't a whole lot at the time. Like it was funny. His favorite game was playing Texas
Poker.
Hold'em, and I'm like, really? You dropped $1,400 to play VR poker? But there was a game that was just coming out, and its name is escaping me. It was like this big deal at the time. I think it was like kind of like a quasi indie, but it was this. It was like a shooter game. So we were playing I was playing this first person shooter where it was pretty neat. But it was, I don't know. It was all right. It didn't really wow me or anything. And then my day ended when I went into this. It wasn't Call of Duty, but it was basically like an army game. And the you're moving yourself with the joystick or whatever, but it was so the way that this particular game was moving, it finally like hit something, and I felt nauseous. I'm like,
geez,
okay, I'm done. Like this was neat, but I'm done. This is it for me today.
Yeah. Luckily, I have not had really any motion sickness. I guess there are some parts in some games which I guess we can get into, but I guess real quick impressions of the actual unit. Now, again, I haven't tried on like any other VR helmets or anything like that, but this one feels really comfortable. It's got a wire, right? Like I know that was sort of a point of contention where people like, I don't want a wire tethering me kind of thing. I don't know. It's a pretty long wire, and it has never bothered me.
Just goes down your back. I don't even think you know it. Like I had a wire on mine and I didn't notice it at all. Like it's not
Yeah,
like I
me.
wasn't doing pirouettes in the office or anything. So it's like,
Well, honestly, most of the games I've been just playing sitting on the couch, so I have like so even less. I know when you stand up, you can sort of right, like maybe you start, you know, turning left or right without noticing, and then maybe you get sort of tangled up. But sitting down, obviously, never run into that issue. But otherwise, yeah, you put it on, it's pretty comfortable. It's got like a button on the top right of the front that sort of slides the lenses in and out. Then you've got like a strap on the back with a button that sort of adjusts that in and out. And then there's a few other things like once you get it on, you can sort of adjust to focus it up because there is like a sweet spot you got to find. And like otherwise it's a little blurry. Like when I first played, I thought maybe it was my glasses got a smudge on there or something. But then I realized like, oh, you just sort of got to move the headset a little bit, not too far, but just sort of adjust it to find where that sweet spot is, and then it looks pretty darn good. And yeah, the controllers are pretty comfortable. They're like those ring controllers that you grab it and it's got like sort of a ring around your hand, and I guess that's makes it good tracking. But yeah, looks good, plays good. I got the little charging dock for the I don't even know what they call them, the VR controllers. I think they had some sort of name. Um,
uh, what did they used to be called?
well, they
The
used to be the
motion or
Move,
whatever. Yeah, the
yeah,
move. That's it. Yeah,
the wands that look like sex toys.
yeah,
But yeah, no, these ones I forget what they're called. But yeah, the little dock so I could charge them both up. Battery life doesn't seem great on those. However, I haven't run into an issue of running out of batteries while playing. Because the games I do have are sort of a mix of using the new controllers and then just using a regular PS5 controller.
mm,
But yeah, overall, yeah, pretty. Once you sort of get used to putting the helmet on, it's like easy enough to find the sweet spot, comfortable. I've played a couple hours clips at a time, and it's been, every once in a while, like, oh, it's hot in here or something, take it off for a second. But yeah, sits on there pretty comfortably. There's a little button that like bypasses through the lenses so you can see around you. Now it uses like the cameras on the unit, so it's not great. You know what I mean? Like it's not like you're seeing crystal clear, but it's enough where if you want to take a sip of water or grab your phone or something, you know what I mean? Easy enough to do.
yeah,
But yeah, so that's sort of the hardware. Like I said, you do need a PS5, and it is pretty expensive unit, but it's nice to have both of them sort of broken up instead of having to drop a quadrillion dollars at once.
yeah,
But getting into the games, and this is one of those things like hearing some other people talking um, about VR in general or PSVR2 in general. A lot of people are like, yeah, the hardware feels pretty good, but the games don't feel like they're there because a lot, there are I think like I want to say 30 or 40 or something, maybe closer to 30 launch titles. So there's a lot of games, but I guess there's a lot of sort of overlap, re-releases, ports kind of thing. But for someone who's never played any VR, you know what I mean? I'm like a kid in a candy shop. I've got, let's see, I've got 6 games. I guess 3 of them, right? Gran Turismo 7, Resident Evil 8, and No Man's Sky. Those are all sort of like free update games. Then I've got Moss Book 1, which is the cute little game with the mouse. I'm sure that one was really popular when it first came out, and there's a second one. So I think a lot of people might recognize that game. Then I got like Kayak VR and Tetris Effect. So
Ooh, I heard good things about Tetris Effect.
yeah, that's why I had to get it. Yeah, and there's like seriously, there's like looking at I already know a couple more. I'm gonna get Pistol Whip, which is a game like looking at it, I was sort of like I don't know, but like everyone I've talked to personally and everything I see online, everyone's like Pistol Whip's like pretty much the best VR game ever. Uh, or like up there, available on PSVR2. I guess it's like a shooting game, but it's like also a rhythm game. So I guess it's
Oh, okay. I just realized it's funny because it's like when you said that, I'm like, I feel like I've heard this one before, but I actually saw just yesterday. I actually saw a video of somebody playing it on Twitter. It's I think you're almost like you're holding lightsabers or something in the game too, right? Isn't it like you're kind of whipping your arms around?
maybe I know you have gun like the one like I know you have guns, so you're definitely moving your hands around and shooting. And then to me, it looks, and I haven't watched a ton of footage on it, but to me, it almost looks like it's like an on rail shooter, right? Like you're sort of on rails, but you're sort of shooting people to a beat, and then like you can move your head around to like avoid being hit by bullets coming at you.
Okay.
Is what I think it looks like. But yeah, I've heard a lot of really good things about that. Pavlov is like a Counter Strike esque shooter in full VR. I really want to try that. There are some other games. There's this one, I forget what it's called, but it's essentially you're like a Viking on a boat and you're racing other Viking boats. But like it's like Guitar Hero, but it's drums.
Oh,
And
really?
so you're like on a boat, but you're racing other boats by like slamming your drums on the right beats. It looks super cool. So there are a lot of games that like I'm like, dang, I really want to try this. But I was like, I already spent so much money. Uh, so yeah, luckily I already had Gran Turismo and Resident Evil. So like those were completely free. I did buy No Man's Sky 50% off for $30. I bought Moss for 20. I bought the kayak for 20, and then Tetris Effects like $40. So yeah, I've been making it rain over here.
Can you play the PS4 VR games, or does it have to be a PS5 game?
Yeah, it has to be a PSVR2 game. So
Oh, okay. So you can't play like Batman Arkham VR, right?
no, not yet. Now, I think I have a feeling as time moves on, a lot of those will probably start seeing some patches, whether it's free, like some games are free updates, some are paid updates. But I could see those starting to come. But yeah, for right now, yeah. And that's why when you mentioned to me before Skyrim VR, that must just be the PS1 VR1
Yeah.
edition, and it might actually, depending, right, you sort of take a risk. I could probably buy it cheap and hope there's some sort of upgrade plan eventually, but yeah.
It's Sony and Microsoft not exactly getting along these days, so who knows?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, man, I know they love just putting Skyrim out everywhere, though. They're like, oh,
Yeah.
there's another platform.
Yeah, maybe that's the thing. Maybe Todd there will figure maybe just sneak it out or something, not tell
Yeah.
Phil.
Oops. I
Yeah.
would definitely like to play it. It'd probably be really cool. But I guess yeah, we'll get into some more of the individual games here. I guess so. Gran Turismo 7. I would say like this is almost sort of like the hey, come look at it. You know what I mean? Like this game fully VR except for split screen, which obviously you could sort of understand why that's not VR. Um, but yeah, it's really really cool. Like the menus and stuff are sort of like it's like a projected big screen, right? Like you're in like a cinematic mode or something. And then once you get into the race, it zooms into that freaking first person. You're in the car, and it's like whoa. It's crazy because it's
That's
like, yeah,
awesome.
you could see all your mirrors nice and easy, right? You could literally turn around over your shoulder and see cars behind you. Although that's don't do that because
I was gonna say that that sounds like that could cause some trouble.
honestly, it's because your car drives so fast that like even looking away from the road for like a second, you turn back, you're like, oh god, the turn's already here. And every time I'm like, I'm just gonna like cruise around and just like not care about the race. Then I usually get like, oh well, now I want to try and race. So I haven't just like cruised around at like 20 miles an hour to check out the area, but yeah, it's super cool because all the different cars, right? Obviously, they drive different, they feel different, they've got different interiors, different mirrors, like everything. So it's cool once you're in there and you're like looking around and you can see the dash and you can see the seats by you, and it really is like pretty insane.
Yeah.
And
I
then like
saw I
it.
saw
Oh,
I'm just looking at the headset. I know it says that there's 3D audio. Is the audio in the headset, or do you need to wear like a separate headset on the headset?
so I'm not sure. So there is like I've got like the 3D Pulse headset. like the
Okay.
already.
So like the PS5
Yeah. Yep.
thing.
Yep. Yeah. So
Okay.
I've been wearing those, but it did come with like they're like earbuds that you could plug into the back of it,
Oh,
and they
okay.
sort of dangle, and then you could put them in your ear. I don't know if those have 3D audio, um,
Okay,
but
so
it
you
does.
have 3D audio because you have the the literal 3D audio headset.
Yeah, headset. Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, oh, that's
Exactly.
good.
uh, so yeah, Gran Turismo 7. What was I saying? Just like you get in there and it's really crazy because yeah, you're driving, it's super fast. When you It's really cool when you get like close to other cars, especially behind them, right? Because I feel like in racing games I love the first person view, but like oftentimes, right, it's like just too hard to drive like that, you know.
Yeah,
Like you just feel like it isn't as fun or whatever it is. But here, it it just feels so like natural, right? Like VR, I feel like was like built perfectly for a racing game because yeah, what you're doing, you're sitting down anyway, so it's like that immersion of like in a game like Resident Evil where you're walking around. Like obviously you're not walking around in real life, so like a little immersion breaking, right? Or a little like something you get used to. But with GT7, yeah, it's like, no, I'm in the cockpit here driving around. Like this is what I'd be doing if I was in a real car, more or less.
yeah.
And yeah, I guess like I said, I haven't really gotten. I absolutely haven't gotten motion sickness where I've had to like stop or throw up or anything. But there are definitely a few times in Gran Turismo where you're going like a buck 80, and it's like, all right, I'm going like down a hill and turning, but then going quickly back up like another hill,
Yeah,
and you get that like, ooh, like oh, that felt a little strange. You know what I mean? Like because you feel like in your stomach,
roller coaster
like
feeling.
yeah, going over the edge and then moving around. So there definitely been a few times where it's like, whew, like that was a little crazy, but for the most part, yeah, just super good. Um, they do have the VR showroom, which is really nice. Also, like just you could go to like they have like a bunch of different set spots, like the GT cafe, and it's like you're out in the parking lot and there's like a little cafe behind you, you know what I mean? And then you just look at the car and you can sort of move around it. So, the car junkies who really are really into the cars and stuff can get a nice close look.
Admire the wheels.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Um, Moving on, Resident Evil 8 Village. Now, this one I have not played a lot of yet. I've been really just honestly bouncing around these games so much that I feel like I played, I think, about an hour and change of Resident Evil the first day I got it. And then I was like, I'm just going to bounce around these other games and then like really sink into Resident Evil. Like after I'm like, I don't feel like playing Tetris anymore and stuff. Like I'm going to concentrate on this. So, but the first hour or so, it's whoo, good lord. Um, I mean, it looks insane, like very crazy. And now, have you played Resident Evil 8?
No, no, just seen a lot of clips of it, but never actually played it.
Okay, so I mean, I don't think this is a big spoiler. It's literally I'm talking about the first 15 minutes of the game. But if for some reason you really don't want to know it, I mean, I think you're probably fine hearing
I
this.
think everyone's seen the first 15 minutes of the game. What you're about to.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, if you want to skip ahead a minute, but right, so you're sort of in your house and you're walking around, you put the baby to bed, you're having dinner, and then all of a sudden, Chris busts in and he just like guns down your wife right in front of you, and then steals your baby. So
Oh.
like, so like, you know, it was like so crazy. Now part of it, like I would say this is like the most sort of not motion sickness, but like thrown off because essentially you're at the table and then like the table gets like flung over, so you sort of like fall back, and then you like fall down to the ground. So your head level right is moving in the game, but obviously in real life it's not moving. So that was a
Yeah.
little jarring. Like you know what I mean? Like 1 second I'm at the table, now I'm on the floor, like laying down and like crouched behind it. So I felt like a little weird there. But then also, then you're like looking off to the left, and you're just like your wife's just getting absolutely pumped full of lead, dude, and like blood flying all over. I'm like, this is ridiculous, dude. Like I can't believe this. I was like, wow, this is really wild. And then you get into the village, the first area, and yeah, it's sort of creepy, and I forgot actually like the one part you sort of get, ambushed by a whole bunch of dudes, and like I was like, oh my god, like running around like a chick with my head cut off. Because also, right, so where Gran Turismo 7, like you're using just the normal controller, and you're driving like you normally would, even if you had the helmet off.
Hmm.
Resident Evil 8 is like it's VR, so it's like they want like you got to grab your gun off like your right leg holster, right? And then like when you reload, you got to grab ammo from your left leg holster and like put it in and then cock it back.
Oh, doing the work.
And then what else is there? Yeah, then like the knife is on your like your left arm, so like to unsheath it, right? You go over there and grab it. But right when all of a sudden there's like 10 guys chasing me, and I'm like, oh, how do I reload? Like, oh my god, like feeling like an idiot.
Panicking.
Yeah, like yeah, as if it wasn't already like.
Yeah. Isn't
um,
Lady D's like 8 feet tall too, right? Like,
oh, I haven't gotten to that big beautiful woman yet, but one
oh.
day. Yeah, yeah, she's super tall. And yeah, and I'm
It'll
pretty
be funny.
sure.
It'll be funny looking up at her when you get to
I'm sure there's plenty of people who are dying just for that moment. Like, I've been waiting my whole life for this. Have her looking down on me. Um, but yeah, so it is weird now. It defaults to I guess maybe it's called snap turning or something along those lines. So essentially, like, right, normally with the right stick you would just free range look left and right, but it's defaults to where if you go like click to the right, it like moves over. It almost feels like tank controls
her.
from, so like the camera will only move in like set intervals, and I guess that is to prevent motion sickness. Like, so if you were turning right and then you're also looking right, I guess could be really sort of disorienting.
Oh,
um
okay. Yeah, I
so
can
it
see that.
so yeah, it defaults to a snap turning, and I just use that to begin with, and like I said, it takes a little getting used to, because it's like, right, like oh, I gotta like click right or left a few times to actually like do like a quarter turn or something. Um, but yeah, you can turn it off, but I guess, like I said, I guess it helps combat motion sickness. And now, fortunately, like I said, I haven't really had that issue, so I do want to try it without it, because I feel like it would definitely control better. But I guess obviously, right, like if you're getting sick, like rather
Yeah.
play the other way. But yeah, Resident Evil 8 definitely seems like, yeah, like definitely a showpiece. Like, this game looks wonderful. And yeah, I'm looking forward to putting some more time into that. Then moving on along to, and if you at any point have questions, whatever, throw them out here. I know I'm just rambling
Yeah, no problem.
to a million games here. No Man's Sky. Now, this is a game I had never played before ever. I'm familiar with its interesting past, from getting released sort of probably prematurely and all this,
Piecemeal.
and and working their way back out. And I know there's a huge fan base that absolutely loves No Man's Sky. So I was like, and I'm not a huge space kind of guy, you know what I mean? Like, I don't love Star Wars. I don't love like the sci-fi futuristic stuff. But it was VR, and I'm like, you know what? It's 50% off, and this seems like a game, that I could sort of get lost in. And worst case, right, I'm flying around in space, so like that's got to be cool, if nothing else. Now, have you played No Man's Sky?
Yes, played it quite a bit actually. I have it on? I think I bought it like 3 times. I have it on my PlayStation, my PC, and Xbox. Actually, I was playing with the kids. It's really fun. Like, it's, I don't know. It's kind of like Minecraft in space if you're playing the, uh, I guess, Quest version or whatever. Like, where you kind of starting from nothing, where you literally like just crash down on a planet, and then it's like, okay, I gotta go around and dig up. Well, it's got a pretty good tutorial on how to build stuff. So it's like, okay, go mine carbon here, or go mine this mineral there, and then you build like a synthesizer, and then you repair your ship, and then you kind of just work away with mining and all that stuff. But the thing that I have the most fun with is going into, they have, it's like creative mode, where it's like, okay, everything in the game is unlocked. You just do whatever you want. And so I had fun like base building, and building an armada of ships, and going after pirates and blowing them up and stuff. It's really fun game.
You were cheating.
I do, yeah. Didn't have the time. I was like, I want that. Well, what put me over the is like so I see this uh, massive ship come in, and I googled like, okay, how do I get this ship? And then I saw
Just
like the
drop
amount of
20 hours,
hours, yeah.
20,000 hours. Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, or I could just go into creative and go steal it from the from the captain. So I'm like, I'm gonna do that.
Don't mind if I do.
Yeah, so I had this like this massive ship that, and I had like 8 of my ships inside it and stuff.
That's awesome.
It's getting wild.
Yeah, yeah, I saw single multiplayer than the creative. For me, I'm always like these kinds of games. I'm like, I wish I was more creative, but I feel like I end up like never really getting into that. So I'm like, I better just do like the true game, right, and see what it's all about.
Mm.
So I went through the tutorial, got my ship, and then by accident I shot like an enemy. And then he attacked me. I crashed. I died, and I was like a year away from my ship. So I just started over again.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, now I sort of know how to get through the tutorial a little better. But so I'm assuming in the base game you can run around the planet freely, right? You just
Oh yeah, yeah.
yeah. So the way they combat, I assuming I guess this is to combat, again, sort of feeling sick or anything. You don't actually run around the planet. Like when you move the left stick, like you'll see it's almost like a Pikmin. Like, oh, I'm gonna throw my Pikmin out, right? Like one of those like menu, like little like lines on the ground come out right from you. If you're playing Pikmin, to where you would throw that Pikmin, but instead that's where you move. So like
Oh, so it's like, okay, I want to go over there. So you put the thing and you hit there, and then he just runs there, I guess.
yeah, you just teleport there essentially.
Oh, teleport.
Yeah,
Okay.
so it's not like, oh, I'm just going to run across the entire world and like set it. It's like smaller bits where like, oh, I want to just move forward. Like I'll move, and then you sort of like just move around like that. You can still use the jetpack, so you
That's
can like
interesting.
float around a little bit. But yeah, you're not really free running. Now I guess I should actually probably check the options. Maybe there is a free run, but again, once again, it's defaulting to this sort of like, I guess, to prevent it. But yeah, I've played a couple hours now. I got my ship, I flew out into space, and I'm like, this is awesome. Because it's really cool with the VR, right? Like you stand next to your ship, and it's like, wow, the ship is like huge. Like I feel so small. Then you get in there, and it's like, oh man, I'm flying around, and like again, you're like looking over your shoulder, like looking around, like this is really cool.
Does it look like you're in a cockpit? Like you can
Oh
look up?
yeah, like
Yeah.
you get into the cockpit, and again, or I shouldn't say again, but like these use the new VR controllers. So you
Okay.
actually like grab the thruster and like the joystick, like for the plane, and
Hmm.
like you actually fly it that way. So you'll move your left hand to thrust forward, and then like your right hand sort of controls the up, down, left, right, all that good stuff.
Yeah.
And like same with your menuing, will be like you'll pull up your left hand, and then like a little like holographic menu pops up, and then you touch screen it. You
Oh,
know,
that's neat.
so yeah, it's pretty cool. To grab your little blaster gun to mine stuff, like you'll your right hand, you'll go over your shoulder and then press like the R2 button, which is like on the grip. So essentially it feels like you're just sort of like grabbing, right?
Yeah.
And like you'll pull that over your shoulder, and then like to change some of your scanning stuff, like you'll put your left hand up to your head, and you know what I mean. So
And
pretty.
it's haptic feedback too, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. The helmet's
Yeah.
got some haptic sort of.
Oh, the helmet too. I thought it
Oh
was
yeah,
just the thing in the hands. Yeah,
no, that
that's
the
neat.
helmet too, like will buzz like and stuff. It's pretty cool. Um, yeah, I look forward to putting more time into No Man's Sky because again, like I guess reading what some other people are saying, it's I guess the graphics could use a little bumping. I guess compared to the original, I don't know. Looks not bad to me, But again, what do I know?
Yeah.
But yeah, I like again sort of what they've added for the motion in terms of VR and stuff is pretty cool. And yeah, I just started building I just built a base, and I'm like, oh man, I didn't even realize, like I knew you could like build different ships. but I wasn't thinking you could build bases and stuff. And then like, yeah, I did a quick online search just to sort out, because I'm like, oh, I bet you people have made the most ridiculous stuff. Um, and I was right.
Yeah.
Some of the things people build are just like, whoa, that's mind boggling.
Yeah, I remember seeing some crazy things where like they're building like right up, like going straight up from the ground and like building around plants and stuff. It's pretty wild.
Building a whatchamacallit, a Fortnite style building.
Yeah, it's just straight up and then like doing like a wrap around. Like I think they were trying to like make a Star Killer base or something. It was
That's amazing.
insane. I don't know where people have the time, but I mean, if they're enjoying themselves, then good for them, you know.
Heck yeah. Alrighty, moving on here now. We've got a pair, or not a pair, a trio of games left. Uh, it's so funny. Like I said, I feel like there's so many games I've been bouncing around, and there's so many more that I want to keep getting that it's like, oh yeah, yeah. But Moss, this is now the cutest little game ever. Now it's funny because I remember this being shown off a long time ago, and like way before I was ever going to get into VR, and I was like, oh, that game looks amazing. Like that looks like a super fun little game, and oh my god, like it's hard to say like, oh, this is my favorite game because I'm really enjoying all of them for different ways, but
Yeah.
like I feel like this game is amazing. Now, do you know anything about it at all?
The only thing I know is I googled it when you mentioned it at the beginning, and I'm like, "Hey, you're a little mouse."
Okay, yep. Yeah, so actually you're, well, you are and you aren't. So the game, it's told like a storybook. So like you start the game, you're in like this big cathedral, and you've got the book in front of you, and like the narrator starts and you turn the page and it's telling this little story. And then when like it bumps into when you're actually playing, and it almost, to me it's might be a little bit of a weird connection, but it almost feels like Captain Toad Treasure Tracker,
Oh
uh,
yeah,
in a sense that like the way the game works is like, so you're actually like the watcher, right? Like Quill, who is the mouse, can actually see you, and you guys sort of interact with each other. And like you do control Quill, you move her around and like attack and jump. But then like I also, as the person, right, will manipulate like things in the world to help Quill get to where she's got to go. And essentially, right, it's like you come in an entrance and like there's an exit in this like little area, and then like when she hits that, like you'll hear actually like a page turn, and then like it'll go dark, and then you'll pop up in like the next area, and you don't do a lot of moving around yourself. Like, you know, you can move your head around, but like essentially like the world, right, she's a little mouse, it's like it feels like a diorama, and that's why I sort of compare it a little bit to Captain Toad,
yeah,
because it's just like, right, like I'm this big being in this big room to Quill, but to me it's not that big, right? And like I'm going through like a temple, and there's like little like mouse statues with swords and stuff. And it's just super cute, very uh, fairy tale book esque. You know, you're sort of going through the woods and temples and this and that. And in the beginning, you know, you're just sort of getting her from point A to B. Then all of a sudden, then it's like, hey, there's things I'm going to pull out. She could jump on, and then like maybe I'll have to move it again later to get to a different part. And now I've been getting where you know, sort of switches on the ground that activate things, but like I need to manipulate one of the enemies to get on there to open up the path so she can actually move through. So just really cute little puzzle things. You know, nothing too crazy hard puzzle wise yet, and same with the combat, nothing too crazy hard, but just like real enjoyable. Like I said, it looks so good, and like I said, I just love the sense of scale, right? Like you're this
hmm
big being sort of looking in on this tiny little diorama style thing that the mouse is going around. And like it's cool because they're actually like, oh, I can like lean forward and look behind that wall that I couldn't see from where I'm normally sitting, right? Um, and they're like little things to like little like scrolls that are hidden around in all the areas. So like, in addition to getting and just sort of overcoming the obstacles, you could keep your eye out for these scrolls, which appears to sort of be putting a picture back together that you see during the in between the chapters. And then like there's also just like little pots and stuff you can destroy as you go around, and like I guess there's just like a pots destroyed counter. Um, or like when you like destroy boxes and pots and stuff, like you'd see sort of like a like glittery color come out, and like I guess you're collecting that to some extent. But yeah,
Okay.
it's just a really cute little puzzle game. There's like super cute moments where it's like, oh, you like high five Quill, you know what I mean? Or you could go like you could pet her and she sort of leans into it.
Yeah,
Yeah, super.
that's neat.
Yeah, like this one so far, like I said, I'm enjoying all these games, but like Moss is really really good.
Yeah. It's funny, the next game on your list. I actually, it's the timing with some of this stuff is funny. Kayak was I saw, I don't know if it was an advertisement or if it was just the dev tweeting about it, but I saw this one where it was like, and I'm assuming this is the game because you're literally in a kayak,
Yeah.
paddling, and I saw like this turtle came up to the boat, or up to the kayak, I guess, and kind of swam away or whatever, it was just kind of showing off the amount of detail, and it looked pretty neat. It reminded me of I actually went kayaking in or we have a national or a quasi national park near us, and it just reminded me of it with like the trees and the sun and the water. It looked pretty incredible from just like the few minutes I saw of gameplay.
Yeah, this was one where I was like, I'm buying this game no matter what, and this is probably going to be the first game I play. Um, just because it just seems so, again, sort of like with racing games, right? Like, oh, you're sitting still in a spot, and like, oh, I'm going to use my hands to row the paddle. Like, it feels right. The immersion feels like it'd be really good, and just sort of a good. Hey, I've never done VR. Let's try this. So yeah, that was actually the first game I fired up, and it's a really good game. I brought it. My wife tried it, and then I brought it to a family barbecue, and my brother and dad tried the kayaking, which is funny. My dad actually tried Gran Turismo also, but yeah, it was funny to like my brother's like, oh, I guess I'll try it, and then like I leave the room for a second, and I walk back in, and he's like head straight up, almost backwards, right? Just like looking around, like looking like a complete goober. But like
Yeah,
I was like, I totally know what you mean, because like that was the same the same feeling I had. Just yeah, it looks really nice. There are a couple different areas you can go to, like Antarctica. You can go to like Norway, Costa Rica, and I think Antarctica. And then like there's some sub areas within there, like you can go to the beach or jungle, and like go into the caverns up in the Antarctica and stuff. So different areas you can sort of go through. They have an option where you can sort of just like, hey, take me on a tour, and like you won't have to paddle and you can just look around. And then there's like free roam where it's like, hey, go do whatever you want, And then they do also have like a racing. I haven't tried the racing just because it's like I'm not trying to do that right now,
yeah. I was gonna say it sounds like a workout.
Yeah, it's like I'm already getting tired just paddling around. But yeah, this game I think is a like wonderful show it off piece, right? Like to anyone that's like, yeah, hey family, hey, you never tried this, like try this game out, because it makes sense, right? You grab the controllers and like you just mimic rowing, like it's pretty, feels one to one more or
Straightforward.
less.
Yeah.
Uh, I will say though, the weird thing with the kayaking game is like it feels like you don't get like good inertia. So like if you're paddling and you're going pretty fast and you just stop, like I feel like you come to a stop relatively
Oh,
quick. Like you don't have that nice like, oh, I'm just coasting for a while feel. Uh,
yeah.
so that's like a little annoying, but yeah, again, just looks good. Uh, trying to think what else. That was weird because yeah, in kayak, right? You start out in like a little, literally like they start out a little swimming pool, so you could just sort of like push around and get used to it. And like yeah, that was like the okay, I'm working it. And it's funny though, like you start to get some momentum going, and then you like hit into the wall, and like your body feels like you should still be going forward. You know what I mean? Like you get that like ooh like, and you don't get that feeling obviously because you're sitting on a couch, uh, and it's like ooh that felt weird too. That's sort of like again, it's not so much where I actually got like oh I'm sick or anything, but like some of those feelings was like ooh that's a little weird.
Mm.
But yeah, kayak seems to me sort of like hey, I might go back from time to time and just sort of like, oh, I just sort of want to look around and whatnot. But probably be a game I play the least, I'd imagine. But like I said, it's a real good game to show off to people. And if you're just looking for like a super chill experience, like, yeah, this is sort of it. Yeah, you'll see animals. Um, I was going around the corner and like one of the icebergs, just sort of like a big part of it broke off, and it's like, oh, geez, cool. What else? I guess I've seen some things of like dolphins and other animals out there, so definitely a cute little game. And this one I believe actually is one of the PSVR2 exclusives, believe it or not.
Oh, okay.
And then last but certainly not least is Tetris Effect. And this is a game again. Yeah, I've heard so much about this game over the years, and Tetris. I like Tetris. It's always fun. I'm not like a crazy. I could put hundreds of hours into Tetris, but I've been going through like sort of the journey mode, which I guess you probably see all the different styles, backgrounds, because essentially, I mean, it's Tetris, right? You're playing Tetris. I guess I think the special effect or special, sort of element that was added to this particular version is like you gauge a meter up, and then you can sort of press both the trigger buttons, and then you go into like you just try and clear as many as you can, and you get a big bonus for it. And like if you clear it, like it doesn't all go away and right away, it'll like push to the bottom, and you just try and clear as much as you can during that short period of time. And then you get big bonus. But like those lines you clear don't count towards your progress during that level. So like say you need 36 to win, to move on to the next level. You use that ability and you clear 12 lines. Like they're not going to count towards your 36. But
Oh, okay.
that's how you rack up the big points kind of thing.
Yeah.
But as far as the VR goes, it's just super trippy. Like just like lots of random each level will sort of have a theme. Like I was in like a snowy one, right? So it's like when you're moving the pieces around, like it sounds like someone stepping in snow, like that sort of that crunch of the compacting snow. So
Yeah.
like it sounds super cool when you're like moving the pieces around because it's like you know what I mean, and like sounds like a lot like wintry snowy elements.
Yeah.
And then like different, I'm trying to think. There was one I was like a fire, and it was sort of in the jungle, so like you had lots of like sort of beat like drums and going on, and just yeah, visually and from an audio standpoint, super cool. Like weird trippy music, and it's just sort of like a cool spectacle, I would say. Sort of kick back, lean back on the couch, and just sort of take it in.
Cool. Yeah, that's kind of been my impression of it. It just seems like I mean, Tetris is always kind of addictive, even in its standard. Like it sold however many millions on Game Boy just because it was fun, and then to add kind of like the lights and sounds of Tetris Effect just makes sense that it would be a fun game.
Yeah, it's now the bummer is it's like $40. So
Oh,
yeah, so that was the bummer. So the good thing is like a lot of these VR games aren't full price. The Horizon game that's $60. I haven't played that game, haven't gotten it yet. That might be one I get eventually. I've heard some good things, like it is fun, looks really great, but that it's also like, oh, I wish it wasn't $60.
yeah,
That's what I'd say about Tetris. Like I'm enjoying it in some, but like, oh, I would have loved it way more if it was like 20. But like Moss is $20. Like happy with that. Now I think it's only like a 4-hour game. Like beginning to end. So you know it's one of those, right? I guess if you're breaking it down per hour, you could say maybe it's a
yeah,
little pricey for the hours you get out of it. But like man, Moss is I'm really loving Moss a lot. But yeah, there's like I said, there's so many other games. Even like there's like this Townsman VR, which sort of looks a little. Remember Black and White? I believe it was called like the
I
God.
I've played Townsman. I reviewed it once.
Oh, did you? How
Yeah, it was fun. Like I played it. I reviewed it. It's actually probably my most watched video on the Thirsty Mage YouTube channel,
Interesting.
because nobody reviewed it when it came out on Switch except me. So I had like, I think there's like
Crack
20
it
or
up.
30,000 views on it right now.
Heck yeah.
Yeah. So, but it's yeah,
Don't mind if I do.
yeah. Hey, if nobody else wants to play it, but I mean, it was fun. It was like a fun little city builder in kind of medievally times. So it was. I enjoyed it. Like I kind of like those, town building games. So it was fun for
And
me.
it's
But
almost like a god sim, right? Because you can even interact with the little people and things.
yeah, yeah. I it's funny. Was just kind of going through the VR list at the beginning there, and I noticed it and saw a couple screenshots for it, and I thought, oh, I wouldn't have expected that to be a VR game, but I could see how it could be like a good one.
Yeah, it seems like you sort of almost like crawl around the world with your hands to move, and then you can like
That's awesome.
build. And so that one looks good, but I think that one's like $30 maybe or something like that,
Yeah,
30, 40. So it's one of those like
I guess it all depends, like you said, how long the games are. It was funny back in the day when Batman Arkham came out. I had actually seriously considered getting the PSVR at the time because like, oh, I want to be Batman.
yeah, I want to build
so
yeah.
and so they almost had me until I found out the whole game was an hour long. And I'm like, I'm not dropping $800 to be Batman for an hour.
Yeah, yeah, bummer.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm hoping like all those like other games like keep on coming. There's rumors of Half-Life Alex. That would be amazing. I'm not even a huge Half-Life guy, but like I would happily really love to play that game. Um,
yeah. Which one did they? Because that came out. I'm
that
trying to
was like with
remember.
Steam VR.
Is it the Steam VR exclusive? I guess.
Yeah,
Eh?
yeah, because that was like the hey, we need people to buy our VR headset. All right, make a Half-Life
Yeah.
game. You know,
It's
um,
been out long enough. You think that maybe they'd be
There's
willing to?
rumors swirling that it could be coming to PSVR 2. In which case, yeah, I'd be a happy boy.
Yeah.
This other game I'm really interested in, and this would probably be one of the more RPG esque games, and that's Demeo, Demeo, Demeo.
Oh, I haven't heard that one.
So it's like it looks like a D&D style board game esque, like I guess really just D&D style, right? Like you move the pieces along this sort of grid style level. There's like cards that I guess I don't know either amplify or I don't know if they're spells or they're amplifiers or whatnot. You're rolling dice. It's a multiplayer game. And I guess this one's $40. I guess the game is like 2 to 3 hours long, but I guess each time you play it, the maps are randomly generated and stuff, so you can get multiple plays.
Oh yeah. Just looking at it now, it looks like there's like like you could play it with real people and stuff too.
Yep, yeah,
Multiplayer.
and that was like I was like, oh, it would be great if I had someone to play with, but I guess I was reading they said generally you can get into games pretty easy with other people. And that the community is pretty friendly. So this is one again. This is going to be on the radar. It did have like a pre-sale buy. It was like $9 off. It was $31, and I thought about it, but I'm like, I have so many other games that I'm probably going to wait. Hopefully, get this one on sale. But yeah, this one looks super cool too. Yeah, like I said, honestly, I go through so many. There's like What the Bat, which looks sort of like a WarioWare style game. But yeah, for me, like I said, I've been loving it. I will say, yeah, it's expensive, right? Especially like, I mean, if you have the PS5, like, all right, that's half the battle. But it's still expensive. Having now played
Yeah, it's
VR,
750 here and up in Canada.
yeah, I think it was 550 here, and then with tax and stuff. But for me, having now played VR after years and years of like having pretty good interest, but not enough to spend all that money. I don't think VR will ever be a replacement for regular video gaming. it's just right. You got to put
Yeah.
the headset
Well,
on. You got to set things up. This, that, there, and don't get me wrong, it's amazing, and I think there can definitely be a strong future for VR gaming, but it's never going to just be like the all right, no one plays with a controller and watches on the TV anymore. You know, like
yeah.
I don't think that is ever going to be a case. But I mean, with games like I mean, Resident Evil 8 is like it's bonkers that that game is just in full VR. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like, and with GT7, uh, I mean, even No Man's Sky, right? Like these games that are big, healthy, legit games being full VR, I think is just really good, and I hope they keep on cranking out some more games because
Yeah. Well, your boy Reggie was tweeting about that today. He said there was like this graphic about if VR gaming was destined to to remain niche because the sales, like the soft like the penetration of like hardware sales is only like 1%. So it's like really not taken off like you said. But Reggie just kind of contributed saying like until there's a must play game, no, he doesn't think it's gonna be anything but niche.
yeah,
But I
I
feel like
think
there's
even with it,
opportunity though.
I mean, unless if there's some sort of weird world where like Nintendo was like, the Zelda, you can only play it in our new VR and that's it,
Yeah.
like. But even then, I feel like the thing you would get like if Nintendo ever went VR, there'd be like a Link's crossbow training VR. You know what I mean? Like it's not.
Yeah, it wouldn't be a full.
Yeah.
I think the to me the only way I think that would really break into the mainstream is if Elder Scrolls 6
Mm,
was just you could play the full game in VR.
that would be yeah, or like Elden Ring
Yeah, or yeah, Elden
is
Ring.
which with the DLC now or expansion
Mm,
pack or whatever they're calling it. Um,
yeah.
yeah, I don't know, or like any Dark Souls game would be pretty wild. But
Yeah.
yeah, like I said, I just I think it'll always be unless if they can get the technology where it's like, hey, you can get like a big baller VR headset for $200 extra, and that's all you have to pay extra. Like then I could see more widespread. But with it being so expensive and the games also being more not full. I mean, and like I said, they're getting there. But like not like oh hey can go and expect to buy a 20-hour plus game you know whatever but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm
You can
enjoying it for sure, but
you could use like you can use the headset as like the display for just any game, right? Or does it have to be a PSVR game?
I believe so. I don't know, I haven't tested it, but I know with the PSVR 1 you could watch it in like cinematic mode or whatever. So like you could just keep it and I guess it just looks like a giant TV, right?
Well, yeah, I was just wondering if it would be if some people would buy it as a TV replace, like instead of buying a TV, they would just buy a PSVR.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could. I mean, well, yeah,
Other than you have to have a
probably,
headset on all the
yeah,
time.
that'd be annoying for sure. But yeah, I mean, I guess, I mean, you do get a pretty sweet view of the TV. uh,
Yeah, well, and it's like 4K in
yeah,
each eyeball and everything, right?
yeah, but it's still like it doesn't look like the TV 4K.
Oh, okay.
Like when you're playing GT7 VR versus in on the TV, like it definitely still looks better on the TV. Now, it doesn't look awful or anything, but like you're still getting there's still more fidelity when you're playing
Yeah.
on a TV. Um,
Okay.
but yeah, I mean it still looks good. But yeah, I guess with it's funny too because it's got the eye tracking. So like when my dad was playing Gran Turismo, like I was watching him play on the TV and like I could see when he was like looking more to the left, like the right side would get a little blurry. And then like when he looked over there, then it would not be blurry. So it's like they're actively like watching where you look and then like I guess trying to save frames or whatever, like uh at spots you're not honing in on.
Oh, yeah, okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
So it's pretty wild the technology
Yeah.
with the eye tracking stuff. And like we're getting a little long here because I have another podcast to record in a minute. But Switchback looks. I don't know if you've seen that one. That's it comes out sometime in March. It is from oh god, Supermassive Games. I think they did whatchamacallit. What's that horror game? Until Dawn. Until Dawn, which was
Oh, okay, yeah.
yeah. So in Switchback VR, it's like you're on like a roller coaster and it's like a shooter essentially, but it's like a horror game, right? But like the enemies move when you blink your eye.
Oh, jeez.
So it's like you know what I mean? So like yeah, like
Oh
you're gonna
man,
get
that'd be
parts where you're
freaky.
gonna be like, oh, there's nothing in front of me. You're gonna blink, open your eye, and then like something's gonna be jump
Jump
scaring you.
scares. Oh man,
So
that's wild.
I'm eagerly looking forward to that.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I'll just
overall VR pretty darn fun. Like I
yeah.
said, I mean, if you're on the fence, like I said, it's one of those like it's definitely a luxury item, right? Like I don't think you're probably gonna be like, yep, that's it, never playing a regular game again, just VR. And I'm sure there are people who are like that, you know. But for the most part, it's a complementary gaming device. But yeah, so far I'm really enjoying it, and I'm looking forward to sort of seeing what else they could do with it.
Yeah. I think the thing that would sell me on buying it is if there was a full on, like full SMT game,
Mm.
where like so you have like the demons in front of you, like in full fidelity, and you negotiate with them, and it's like, oh, like
You could
Poke,
slap them a little bit.
yeah, like Pokemon style, bring them out to fight and everything, but full on SMT. Like I'd want the SMT experience, not a Pokemon one. So
That would be pretty cool. Another thing you just made me think of, an Etrian Odyssey game would probably be really crazy,
oh yeah,
right?
yeah,
Because you could like yeah walk and it would be good to for motion sickness, right? Like if the way like oh you just move like room by room, but then you can
yeah.
like look down at your hand and like write on the pen like with a pen or pencil or something in game
Oh yeah, you could like literally draw it.
track it out. That
Yeah,
would be pretty sweet. But yes, I hate to cut it short here, but
yeah, that's okay. uh,
unfortunately.
yep. No, I think that was a good overview of because I mean I've been interested in it. I'm sure lots of people listening or have at least thought about it, so it's good to hear about it, and we'll yeah, I guess we'll see what comes out. But I mean, I think like you said, Reggie probably has it down where it's gonna take like
A
a
big
good
push.
game, a good big experience, I think, to hook a lot of people. So we'll see what Sony has up their sleeve coming up.
Well, it's interesting, and just because it to me, like Resident Evil 8 and Gran Turismo, like those feel like that.
Yeah,
But again, it's like, I mean, yeah, neither of those have like a mass appeal that's going to want everyone to play it. But like I said, even if like, because I my one buddy who's like the biggest Half Life stan of all time. He was like almost threw down, like he almost bought
yeah,
the Steam VR and that just to play that. But
yeah.
even then, it was so expensive. He's like, I just can't do it. You know what I mean?
Mm.
So
Well, we'll have to see if you end up getting Horizon, what that's like. So
yeah, maybe one day.
yeah,
Like that would be one. It looks cool, and like I said, I know that one has a lot of like the motion, right? Like with a bow and everything.
yeah,
That would be one. I wonder if it goes on sale, but also that might just be one like I don't know, half a year from now, if I'm like, hey, nothing really going on VR wise, let
yeah.
me sort of
B
jump
day
back
present,
into it.
B day present.
Yeah. That or fingers crossed. Maybe the thirsty mage starts reaching out for some VR codes.
Yeah, hey, yeah, I'm game.
We'll
I'll
see if we can find that Demio.
Yes, we'll find that dev. Yep, we'll track him down. Send him. Yeah, sounds good. Alrighty, well, this is probably a good spot to wrap it up. We'll thank you very much, Casey, for the breakdown on the VR. We'll look forward to what comes forward here, and like you said, maybe we'll track down some devs and see if we can get some
Save my wallet a little bit.
yeah, get you
Will
some
work for codes.
yeah, that's right.
It's like 2017 all over again.
Yep, that's the thing is when things get expensive, it's just time to go to work. That's all.
Well,
Write a few words, and get a few games.
yeah, I'll end it on that. It's funny. I before I bought Moss, I was like pinging between like 3 or 4 games. I'm like, I shouldn't even buy anymore. And then like that month-old post I had with the games I sold originally to buy the PSVR, someone
Yeah,
was like, "Hey, is Project X Zone still available?" And I was like, "You
there you
sure
go.
bet your butt." And then I bought Moss 2 seconds later.
That's funny. Oh, cool. Alrighty, well, I want to thank everyone for listening, and to head on over to patreon.com/the thirsty mage for information on our Patreon, and to join up on the Discord, and head over to Twitter too. We're at twitter.com/the thirsty mage, and you can check out Casey at case_jets. And yeah, I'm sure there'll be plenty of VR's head talk to come for anyone who wants to follow up with Casey to get some more details. So,
Heck
but yeah, again, until the next episode, thanks everyone for listening, and have a good one.
Adios.